Welcome to the Microsoft Access 2010 24-Hour Trainer Video DVD. My name is Jeff Griffith, and this is Lesson 7, the Access 2010 Navigation Pane. So, in today's lesson, we're going to talk about the Access 2010 Navigation Pane, and what we want to talk about are the database objects that are shown in it, the database object properties dialog, the grouping menu for the navigation pane, the built-in grouping types that are included by default with Access 2010, the shutter bar for the navigation pane, the navigation options dialog, the search bar for the navigation pane, and the hidden and system objects that can be shown in the navigation pane. So to begin this lesson, we want to go ahead and just start Access from the Windows Start menu. So we'll go ahead to Start Programs and choose the Microsoft Access 2010. And when Access starts, you'll notice we'll be taken to the Access 2010 backstage. So for this example, we just want to go ahead and show some of the objects that are available in the navigation pane and see what it takes to go ahead and work with those objects. So in this case, we want to just go ahead and create a sample database from template. And we'll click the sample templates and choose the Northwind database option. And I'll just click on the Browse button to choose the desktop for where the database should be created. And I'll click the Create button to create the database. Now the template will be inflated and the new database should be open in a second. So now the Northwind Traders database has been created, and notice that the security bar has been enabled here since we haven't ever opened this database before. But we're not too worried about that for this example. We want to just go ahead and close the default form. And we'll notice now that in this case, when we open the Northwind Traders database, the navigation pane is collapsed by default. So you can see the shutter bar here for the navigation pane, and we'll go ahead and just click on that to expand the pane. Now this is the actual navigation pane itself. The navigation pane was originally introduced in Access 2007 and continues to be included in Access 2010. In versions of Access 2003 and earlier, the navigation pane was actually the database window which showed all the different object types. But in this case, the navigation pane is much more flexible and provides a number of features that the database window did not include, which would be like custom groups or being able to add objects under multiple group headers, many things like that. So we'll look at some of those items here. So in this case, you can see the Northwind Traders database has its own custom nav pane grouping, and it's automatically grouped on that by default, so we can go ahead and change that to the object type if we want, or the other groups. These are the built-in groups for the pane, and this is the grouping pane menu, which can be accessed by clicking the down arrow on the top of the navigation pane. So in this case, let's go ahead and choose object type to switch the navigation pane to show all the objects by type. And you can see we have tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, and modules. And so let's go ahead and expand the forms group by clicking the down arrow on it, and it'll show us a list of all the forms that are currently in the database. Now in this case, we want to go ahead and look at some of these database objects, and each database object has its own context menu associated with it, and it'll have different options depending on the database type. But in this case, you can just go ahead and right-click on the Customer Details form, and you'll see the available options for the form. Now basically, you can open the form just by choosing the form option, or you can switch it to one of the designers by choosing the Layout View or Design View option. And then otherwise, there's a bunch of standard kind of context menu options here, like cut and copy, rename, delete, all that. But the one we want to really look at is the View Properties. So we'll go ahead and click that, and that'll open the Properties dialog for the Customer Details form. Now in this case, you can see it tells a little bit about the object itself. It has the name and the type of object. Of course, you could add a description here if you wanted to, and it tells when this was created and when this was modified and who created it. And then finally, the most important thing is the hidden attribute can be selected from here. So if you were to check this box and apply those changes, this would be a hidden object in the database and wouldn't be shown in the navigation pane by default. But in this case, we don't want to do that, so we'll just go ahead and click cancel here to cancel out that. So now that you've seen the Database Object Properties dialog, let's take a look at a few other things in the navigation pane. So the next thing we want to look at is the Navigation Pane Options dialog, and we can view that in a couple of different ways. The best way to do it is just to right-click on the title bar of the navigation pane and choose the Navigation Options from the menu, and that'll open the Navigation Pane Options dialog. And basically, this is all the options available for the navigation pane, and it kind of breaks down into a couple of different groups. So the grouping options section allows the user to create a custom navigation pane settings, and those break down in two ways. The first way in which custom navigation pane settings breaks down is by category. Now a category will be what is shown in the title bar of the navigation pane when it's selected in the navigation pane. And each category can have its own set of custom groups under it. Now you can see in the object type group it shows all the tables, queries, forms, reports, macros, and modules, which is what we selected it before in the navigation pane at the beginning of this demo. If we look at the Northwind Traders, which is the default setting for the Northwind sample database, you can see that each one of the groups that is created there is shown under this particular category. So to go ahead and create your own category, you would just create the add item, and then you could rename it and choose whatever name you wanted to, and then go ahead and add groups to that. But we don't need to do that for this example. We'll actually examine making custom navigation panes later on in the book in lesson 59. For now, let's just know that this is where you create the custom navigation panes. But in addition to the custom navigation pane settings, you can also do a couple of other things from the navigation options. You can show the hidden and system objects by choosing one of these or both of these options, and you can also show the search bar in the navigation pane, which allows you to search for objects in the database. And finally, the last set of options that are available are the click behavior options, which if you choose the single click, that means a single click in the navigation pane actually opens the object. Otherwise, the default is double click, and that's what I prefer in this case. But whatever you prefer, it's just up to you. So we'll go ahead and click the OK option, and we'll see now that we've chosen the hidden options to be shown in the database. We'll see the hidden system tables under the navigation pane. Now all Access databases have system tables included with them, and by default they are hidden. So if you do choose that option in the navigation pane, you will be able to see and open those tables and see the data contained within them. However, you should know that these tables are read-only, so you can't actually modify the data in these tables directly. And finally, the last thing to examine in this lesson is the navigation pane search bar. So here you'll see, now that we've turned it on in the navigation options, that the search bar here is at the top of the navigation pane, and we can just quickly use it to search for objects in our database. Maybe if you look here, there's an awful lot of objects in the Northwind Traders database, and maybe we're looking for one particular object, say the customer details form. So you can just type in customer or any set of those combination of letters, and it'll show all the objects that contain the set of letters that you typed into the top of the navigation pane search bar. So that pretty much wraps it up for our lesson today. We examined a whole bunch of stuff about the navigation pane. We looked at the navigation pane and how to work with the database objects within the navigation pane. We looked at the Access navigation pane shutter bar for collapsing and expanding the navigation pane. We looked at the grouping menu at the top of the navigation pane. It shows all the built-in group types, and we looked at the navigation options dialog, which can be opened by right-clicking on the title bar and choosing the navigation options from the menu. And that pretty much concludes our lesson for today. I hope you've learned a little something about the Access navigation pane. My name is Jeff Griffith, and thanks for watching.